So welcome for our part 2 of these SEO for podcasters. We have like the lazy guide, and we have the, like high effort guide where everyone wants to like really go for the best practices. In the first episode, we covered all of the kind of like Google best practices, transcripts, backlinking, external linking, domain authority, all of these words that by now our listeners are definitely more aware of. And we had to stop because I was like, we need to break this down in order for people to like be fully engaged and taking as much as possible. So welcome to part 2. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. I mean, I feel a little bit greedy that I'm taking up a part 2. But I did say in the part 1, didn't I, that my only 2 passions in the whole wide world are podcasting and SEO. Obviously, joke. I've got more passions. But yeah, that's what happens. And I think we're both chatty humans, Anna. So
this is like a match made in heaven. I'm sorry. Like we're excited to talk about these things. Hopefully now the listeners, like I am pumped for SEO. This does not seem like it's a chore. This does not sound like homework. I am here for it.
And a nice link back to part 1 as well. Actually, with your keyword research, that helps you rather than taking up more time. It saves you time. So,
There you go. Go listen to part 1 if you haven't. All right. So let's get into like all of these other things that we wanted to talk about. So there's 2 different ways that people need to think about like search engine optimization. So how people find information on Google. So in case most people, and there's always these like, oh, everyone says that YouTube is, a must-have for podcasters in, 2023, 2024. And what most people don't know is that YouTube is owned by Google. So this is like match made in heaven. So your podcast should be there, even if it's just an audio version of the episode. So let's talk about best practices to be found on YouTube and why, like, that's still relevant to do. And like how actually, you know what? Hang on. Let's talk about this one thing. So is this still true? Google prefers pages that have multimedia content versus pages that only have text.
Oh, I mean, that is a good question. Is that one of those like old wives' tales kind of?
Yes, that's what I'm curious to ask you, Sarah.
So, I mean, it depends, right?
Our favorite statement, it depends.
It depends. So, but did I not say it depends at all in part 1? Because
I don't think so, but we've talked about this before.
Yeah. So there is a joke, isn't there, in the SEO industry that every answer is it depends. But it definitely does because there's lots of different factors at play. So obviously, when it comes to multimedia, the idea behind that is obviously as humans, we like to consume content in lots of different ways. Some people like to read text. Some people like to listen to a podcast. Some people like to watch a video. Some people like to see a nice infographic and like visual element. So how multimedia helps on a page is if it helps with the interaction. So something that Google is looking at is how engaged are people with pages and stuff. So if you've got a page that's just a load of text, that's not going to be very engaging, is it? And it might actually put people off, like, oh, that's far too much, I'm going elsewhere. So it helps in that sense because it's all about user experience, making it interactive. And we also know, and I think we're going to go into this when we talk about YouTube as well, but Google will show video carousels or product images and stuff like that. So we know that Google likes different types of multimedia. And you can be found as well by images and videos. So that's the thought process behind why Google sort of, enjoys multimedia, because it's stickiness. It helps your content and your pages be more engaging for people.
Depends.
The only thing that I was going to say is something else that Google deems as important. So back to part one. Do you know what? Make sure you listen to part one. We keep saying this, but we talked about Google's algorithm and it being like a checklist. So something that it does look at is page speed. Okay. So something that you've got to be mindful of is when you're putting all this wonderful imagery, these videos, all of this stuff on your website, you need to make sure that it doesn't negatively impact and slows down how fast that page is loading, right?
Especially for mobile users.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Especially mobile users. Here's a Google Pixel. Especially mobile users, especially if they're not on Wi-Fi, like they're on 3G, 4G, 5G. What's the other ones? H? You never want H. I never know what these mean, but...
Oh my God, yeah.
So there's two sides of that. So yes, it can really help bring your content to life. Google will see that people are interacting and your content is very engaging. But at the same time, you just need to be careful that it doesn't slow down your page speed. So for example, there'll be ways that you can embed your videos so they're not like sat on the page. So like browsers have to load it, for example, or you can do stuff, getting a bit technical, but like you can do stuff that like if a browser is identified as a mobile, it won't show certain stuff. Do you know what I mean? So there's ways that you can optimize your speed. Something else that I always do is, so there's you can compress image sizes so they're not as big. So say, for example, I don't know, you might be a wedding photographer and you have images on your pages. Obviously, those kind of images are going to be very big, very large, because they're going to be the highest quality. Whilst you might need that for someone's special wedding day, you don't need that for your website. So there's lots of tools out there where you can compress your image. So a trend, I think it's been around for a couple of years, but the most common formats used to be JPEG and PNG. But there's another type called WebP. And WebP, you're familiar. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They compress the size even more, basically. So they're more optimized for websites and stuff.
Okay. And so practically when people are using, because a lot of the, here in the US, Canva is like, everyone uses Canva for everything. You look like a design pro when you use Canva. So sorry, you do. Yes, exactly. So actually there's like one little talk about checkboxes. You have a little checkbox that says compress image. So make sure that you're compressing that image when you're uploading the content to your website. So I love that. And let's talk about like image SEO, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously, say, for example, you've got a graphic you've got an infographic. So you've got a podcast episode and you're like, oh, I'm going to create an infographic and pick out 5 points that I address. Something that you've got to be mindful of is Google can't read text on a page. Image. I've lost the plot. On an image, right? So that's where the fancy lingo is an image alt tag. But basically, the reason the image alt tag is there is for accessibility reasons. Yeah. So we need to be making sure that we're using them anyway. So for people that use screen readers, for example, they can't see an image for whatever reason that might be. They might have a screen reader that reads it out instead. So what you need to be doing is you need to be using the image alt tags, but you don't want to be stuffing it full of keywords, a point that I made in part one. But if you can use a keyword because it describes what's happening in that image, then go for it. So that image alt tag still needs to be descriptive and you still need to explain what is happening in the image. But if you can use a keyword, great. But that's how an image alt tag should be used.
Perfect. Thank you for that, because I think it's important to remember that like you shouldn't upload images and just call it 5FCT1 35. That's important. Also, like on the back end. I'll just wrap it up and you can go ahead. So basically, also something that I always tell podcasters that I work with is like, name your images, because when you're uploading them to your website, you can go on the back end and actually type what it is, and you'll find it better than having to like spend 5 minutes looking for the image or 10 minutes and then have to go and like, it's just a waste of time. It's not effective. So that's why another important like thing to consider. Yes, Sarah.
100%. No, I was just going to say, so when we talk about images, the super lazy would be at the very minimum, do your image alt tags. But if you've got a bit more time, then there's arguments in, so naming the actual file name is helpful. So rather than it being image hyphen 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you use, you call it the file image, you call it something there. What you can also do is a caption. So the image alt tag will come up like if you hover and on a screen reader, but a caption always comes up underneath. So that's another way that you can optimize that image as well. There is something else. I'm not too familiar with this because I've not delved into it before. But you can get even more technical and you can look at image schema. So obviously there's schema that you can put on a website page, and basically schema is the fancy code that Google can use to understand a page more. So similar to the page title and meta description that we talked about in part 1. But you can do the same for image. So you can use image schema and basically highlight important things about that image, because that image then might come up in image searches when people are searching for images. But it also helps Google, again, okay, this is what this page is about.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for that. So looking into YouTube, as I mentioned earlier, YouTube is owned by Google. Therefore, when you Google something, next time you're Googling something, look up the results and what shows up on top, because it's going to be a YouTube video if there's one talking about that. So, all right, Sarah, looking at SEO, what do we need to consider when putting our podcast on YouTube?
Okay, so just as a caveat, I am not a YouTube SEO expert. Just as a caveat.
All right.
That's a future guest that you could probably have on. You never know. But yeah, obviously, like, it's a no-brainer. So when you are recording your episodes, it's a no-brainer to put it onto YouTube. So there's 2 ways of doing this. Like, if you're using something like Riverside that is recording the video anyway, you've got decent lighting and like a fairly decent background, which me and Anna were discussing before recording. Yes. Then you can use that video and you can upload it. If you don't want to do that, then you can have a static image, can't you?
Make sure that the thumbnail is actually something that people want to click on. Like, don't just like pick whatever, because people will skim through and like actually pick an image that describes what it is or is attention grabbing. So like, I can fill in the things for the YouTube because I've spent so much time researching this. So
you've done this. Yeah. It's an area. So for the SEO Mindset podcast, we know that we need to get onto YouTube, because the point that you made, videos from YouTube are being shown in carousels, and like you get found again. It's about your discoverability, isn't it? But there's a tool called, is it TubeBuddy?
TubeBuddy, yeah.
TubeBuddy, yeah. So obviously, YouTube, like Google, is a search engine. And what that basically means is someone goes to YouTube and types in different keywords and search phrases and stuff like that. And you can, I think TubeBuddy is free as well, but it's basically a keyword research tool for YouTube. So basically, when you are uploading your video to YouTube and you're thinking about your title, use TubeBuddy to come up with the keyword and the phrase that you want to put in there. Make it short and sweet and snappy. Get the hook in. Like, why are people wanting? Why should people want to check out that video? spend time on a decent description as well, I would say. So similar to your show notes. So in your description, like make sure it's good grammar, it's written correctly, it's got keywords, it's got synonyms in there as well. I suppose what you want to be careful of is you don't want to give away too much. Because you still want people to watch the video, right? So you need to tease the people, tease your audience. I don't know what's going on with my eyebrows there, but it happened. So yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you would say on YouTube, Anna?
Yes. So chapters, I've been using chapters. They really help on two ways. One, it helps the user navigate the video. And actually, it has helped show my content to more people on Google, because basically you name that chapter the thing that you're talking about, and that's ideally also a search term, a search query. And
Yes.
so people will like find it on Google, because they're, again, like literally look at how you Google things and apply the best practices in there. So
Yeah.
I'll say that. And actually something that you and I talked in the beginning of the show, actually before you even started recording, is that some listeners told me that they found my content on YouTube, subscribed to my newsletter, and then went ahead and commented in a different YouTube video that they watched. So people will find your stuff and they will actually take action. So don't underestimate the power of YouTube.
100%. And also, something to point out is at the beginning, I don't know when in 2024, but Google Podcasts isn't going to be a thing anymore. And they're moving over more to YouTube, because I think, Anna, you said like YouTube is owned by Google anyway. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. Like, we know that Google are shutting down Google Podcasts, and because they want to focus on YouTube and get people there. So I suppose it's a no-brainer as well, because we know that that's what Google is wanting to do anyway. So if you're wanting to optimize for Google and SEO, then that's another no-brainer.
Yes, and something that I think, like on these episodes, on these two episodes, we've been talking about, like evergreen practices, but there's also something to be said if you do like getting ahead of things. Platforms in general will always benefit early adopters, no matter what. So if you're already keen on trying things, go for it, because the platform is going to naturally, organically boost your content if you're using the new features. So it's worthwhile trying, especially getting a podcast on YouTube now, because it's just gonna, continue to grow. And the YouTube side of it, I feel like it's a long-term game. And also, please don't overthink it. I know that we're going slightly off track, but I know these questions always come up. Like, I don't have a fancy video. I don't have the blah, blah, blah. Like, the YouTube side of things can be as complicated or as simple as you want. Think about the last time you Googled something and you went on YouTube to see a very shaky video from 2007 that actually shows you how to, put up a screw on the wall if you don't have, the support. Like, you did not care. You're like, I'm here for the information. I don't care for the visuals.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And yeah, it doesn't have to be super polished. Just go for it. And you'll get better, won't you? So if you're starting to do YouTube videos and you're like, actually, I'm getting traction, this is good, I'm doubling my listeners or what have you. I don't know if double was too high to say there, but whatever, you've increased your listeners, then you might be like, actually, I do need to invest a bit more into this because it's actually working. So yeah, or you actually enjoy doing this face-to-face where you actually see people like seeing you. So there's a lot of value to trying that. All right, yeah. Sarah, any other 3 tips they have in general multimedia content before we wrap it up? Okay. So image alt tags. Yeah, am I okay repeating what I've already said? Or...
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 3 things. Image alt tags, compressing your images as well, so it doesn't slow your site speed down, and yeah, just get using YouTube, because it's only gonna increase your discoverability. Yeah. So when it comes to you wanting to increase your downloads and you want to use search engine optimization, YouTube is a search engine at the end of the day. People searching it. So why not be there?
Yes. Well, thank you for that. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best platform to talk to you at?
So probably 2 platforms. Twitter. So my handle on Twitter is Sarah MCD UK, or as my friend pointed out to me, Sarah McDuck. So yeah, it's not Twitter anymore. It's X, isn't it?
Yeah, true. Well, it may come back. I don't know. Okay, so Twitter and
LinkedIn. So just search Sarah McDowell SEO or something, and then my podcast as well, the SEO Mindset. So go and check that out, because it's a good little podcast.
It's pretty dope, right? Like, go and listen. Awesome. Well, all the links will be in the show notes of this episode on the website. Again, everything that we always mentioned will be at thepodcastspace.com/podcast. And so make sure that you check out all the episodes we've covered before. And Sarah, again, thank you so much for sharing with us such amazing tips for our audience. I know they'll appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me, Anna. It's been a hoot.
I know. Just what a joy. Like 2 episodes back to back, Sarah. Woo! All right. For you listening in or watching this on YouTube, let us know what you thought. Reach out to Sarah. All the links will be in the description, and just keep creating content that's imperfect but moves you forward. I'll see you in the next episode.